Yeah, kick it, fucker. Oh, hey mates, I'm just playing Fart Fighter 2. It's like Street Fighter 2, only everybody farts. I'm trying to master this 15 fart combo. Yeah, I beat it. Congratulations, please try a harder level. Ah, man, that's fucking bullshit. Oh well. You know, fighting games were everywhere through the 1990s, and of course there was going to be some movies about them. Now, I wonder if these movies are any better than the other video game movies we've seen so far. So, are they really that bad?
Yes!
Jeez, I guess they are. Let's find out for ourselves. Welcome to part 2 of Vendetta against video game movies. Initializing. Waiting. Initializing. Processing. Welcome. And here we go. Continuing our little journey about movies that are based on video games that are almost always shitty. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I highly recommend that you do so. Go watch it now, and I'll be here when you get back. Go on. Did you watch it? Okay, good. In part 1, I covered the Super Mario Bros. Movie and the Double Dragon movie, cinema's first experiences with video game movies, one being the strangest video game adaptation, and the other being the shittiest. And the awful juggernaut that is video game movies would not stop with these two slop flops. We would get another example of things looking better on paper with Street Fighter, the movie, which was released in theaters December 23rd, 1994. And though it's called Street Fighter, it's based on Street Fighter 2, The World Warrior, which was released in 1991. Well, more specifically, the movie is based on Super Street Fighter 2. But they decided to simply call it Street Fighter the movie because calling it Street Fighter 2 the movie would confuse the general public. Yeah, confuse people about a movie they already don't want to watch. And from a marketing standpoint, I get that. You can't have a sequel without having a first movie. What do you think this is? The Rampart trilogy? And there's only 2 other people in the world that would get that joke, and I'm fine with that. Anyway, time for some backstory. Backstory! Backstory! He's gonna waste our time with backstory! Yeah, thanks. Street Fighter 2 revolutionized the arcade industry and totally changed the landscape. Much like Double Dragon started its own game genre with beat-em-ups, Street Fighter 2 started the game genre known as fighting games. Now, to say that this game was a hit would be an understatement. It was huge, and it was everywhere. There were toys for this, but not just any toys. They were paired up with G.I. Joe. Do you know how popular you've got to be paired up with G.I. Joe? These were released in 1993, and there were toys for the movie as well, but they were just repackaged from the G.I. Joe line. But were they accurate to the movie? No, I'm gonna go with no. I don't seem to remember Guile having a bow and arrow, and Dalzim's got a lot of weapons for someone who was barely in the movie. Jeez, look at that crossbow. What the hell? There was a Street Fighter 2 board game, and even a pinball table. A video game has to be something special to cross mediums and become a pinball table. This also happened with Q*bert, Joust, Super Mario Bros., Spy Hunter, and Pac-Man. And Pac-Man also had a hybrid pinball table with Baby Pac-Man. Street Fighter 2 was so popular that it had different versions. Not only did we have Street Fighter 2, The World Warrior, but also Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting, and then there was Super Street Fighter 2. So the sequel had a sequel. But then there was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So the sequel had a sequel. Okay, so they weren't technically sequels, but you get the point. And by the time Street Fighter 3 was released in 1997, we were all just too exhausted to be excited about it. Well, let's get back to talking about the movie. It was a hit, despite the ridicule it's received ever since, but initially it was a box office success. It was made with a budget of $35 million and took in $99 million at the box office. So that's pretty good for a movie that everybody hates. But as I said in part 1, the movie only needs the name to get your money. And by the time you realize you're watching shit, it's too late. The fans hated this movie, stating that it was campy and not faithful to the source material. And I agree with that. I mean, some things just don't work in movies, and therefore, you just shouldn't do it. And though fans shit on this movie, and it seems to be trendy to blindly make fun of this film, but I contend that it's not all that bad, and certainly it's not all that good. And today, we're going to examine some video game movies that are right on the cusp between not bad and not good, but mainly not good. And we're going to talk about some shit. We pick up where we left off. In today's episode, the Vendetta against video game movies, Part 2.
The year was 1994. The world was at peace. Everything was well. Until a scourge was unleashed upon this earth unlike anything anyone has ever seen. This great plague would become known as Street Fighter the movie.
Oh my god! Okay, that's a little overdramatic, but this movie does suck. But all in all, it could be worse. So this film is shitty, and chances are you already know that. But let's look at the positives of this movie, and there aren't that many, so this won't take long. The imagery isn't that bad. It's not spot on, but you can tell what this is trying to be, unlike Super Mario Bros. The movie, or Double Dragon, where you really had no idea what you were watching. Now, is this imagery translation from game to movie perfect? Fuck no. But some artistic license should be allowed for film adaptation, but some things just aren't done well. Like DJ, for example. This is supposed to be him, and he's barely in the movie. Speaking of that, we also have Blanca and Dalazim, two of the more popular and eccentric characters from the game, ones that you'd really love to see on film, reduced to this, and not really being in the movie, and certainly not for any actual purpose. But really though, how would this work in a live-action movie? Well, it could have worked if they would have tried. Maybe if they would have written a better screenplay, this shit would have worked. But hey, we're just the fans of the game, and we love the game. But we never asked for a live-action movie for it. But since you made one anyway, you could have at least made it half decent. But hey, what do we know? We're just the fans. We're just the ones who wasted moments of our teenage years, 50 cents at a time, trying to get good with Ken. We're not the ones who get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce shit movies without even trying. I've had morning dumps that were better written than this fecal matter, but I guess it doesn't matter because you still made almost $100 million at the box office. So congratulations, you made one of the most expensive pieces of shit of all time. Okay, so the imagery is kind of all right. I mean, they did a good job with Zangief, and well, I'm not entirely sure what this stuff is supposed to be, but whatever. The Allied Nations. Well, what the hell is this? Man, they took a lot of liberties with this movie, and you can certainly see why people were pissed that they did not stick to the source material, because they really didn't. But I mean, in all fairness, would the storyline of the game actually make a good live-action movie? Well, I mean, it might not, but then again, why even make a movie? I mean, if it doesn't work, don't make a movie about it. It's that simple. And certainly don't make a movie that's absolutely unrecognizable from the game it's based on. So the storyline is very far away from the storyline from the game, and some of the imagery is okay, but it's little stuff like this. Chun-Li, for example. I mean, come on. They couldn't make her dress blue like in the game, you know, like the person she's based on. But you can definitely tell this is supposed to be M. Bison, which brings me to my next point, the cast. It's not too bad. Really, you got two major players, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia. Is it Raul or Raul? how do you pronounce that? Raul? I think it's Raul. Yeah, Raul Julia. Jean-Claude Van Damme plays Guile, the main hero, and the imagery for him is kind of there, but there's also weird stuff like this. I mean, what's with the beret? Though I guess the video game version of Guile would be kind of hard to pull off in a live-action movie. I mean, look at that hair. What are you supposed to do with that without looking like a total asshole? And then you have Raul Julia, who portrays M. Bison, the main boss of the game and the big bad guy in this movie. And M. Bison is just the character's name. He's not an actual bison, although that would be pretty interesting. And the imagery for M. Bison is spot on. They did a pretty good job with this, but it's still strange that Raul Julia played this role. I mean, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that pitch meeting. It's just so odd to me that Raul Julia has anything to do with Street Fighter 2, but there it is, and thank God he's in this movie because, really, he's one of the only redeeming traits this movie has. In fact, this movie had lots of criticism, obviously, except for Raul Julia's portrayal of M. Bison. Everybody loved it. He's just a great actor. Well, he was, because unfortunately, he passed away 2 months before this movie was released. And Street Fighter the movie would be Raul Julia's last film, so there's something. How about that? Such a great acting career to have his last movie be Street Fighter. And it is said that he chose to do this role because his children love the game so much. Man, what a nice guy. So anyway, you would think that a movie that's based on a video game that's all about fighting would have some terrific fight scenes, right? No, actually, that's the worst part about this movie. Terrible fight scenes, and that's just really weird. But then again, this is a terrible movie. Now, is it enjoyable? Yeah, kinda. Is it good for a laugh? Sure it is. Is it a good Street Fighter movie? No. But this movie, terrible as it is, would be immortalized on VHS. And it was released on VHS in 1995, as well as its Laserdisc. Yes, this was on Laserdisc. And you could find either the VHS or the Laserdisc for pretty cheap today. I found my copy of the VHS at a thrift store, and it was almost like they paid me to take it. No, I'm just kidding, they didn't give a shit. But I got it for $1, and it is pretty cool for any VHS collection, as shitty as this movie is. But it could be worse. It could be Double Dragon. And let's just be thankful it's not. So yeah, Street Fighter the movie is one of the worst video game movies, but certainly not the worst. And again, the imagery of the characters is okay. They did a good job with Vega, but it's just a case of too little, too late. Street Fighter quickly became one of those movies that's so bad, it's good. And I use that term very loosely. But there is hope for the Street Fighter franchise on film. There's the animated movie from 1994, which is regarded as the only actual Street Fighter movie. And this was released in theaters overseas on August 6th, 1994, but was direct-to-home video here in the States in 1996. And that VHS is cheap and easy to find, but its Laserdisc counterpart goes for around 50 buckaroonies. And then there was the cartoon show simply called Street Fighter, which aired from October 21st, 1995 to May 14th, 1997. So that lasted a long time. And oddly enough, this was never released on VHS. Then there was a Japanese cartoon series in 1997, and there's many volumes of VHS for this at varying price points. And you can find many of them still sealed. It's still sealed!
Still sealed!
Still sealed!
Still sealed! Holy shit, I can't believe it!
Oh my god, it's still sealed! Oh my god!
And then also, there's a movie called Street Fighter Alpha, which was released in Japan as Street Fighter Zero in 1999, but was released here in the States in 2000. And the VHS of this is pretty cheap. So anyway, the live-action Street Fighter movie didn't do so hot critically, but did do very well financially, which proves that people were willing to give this movie a chance, but the studio still fucked it up. And what's weird about this is they actually made a video game about this movie. Yeah, you heard me right. They made a fighting game about Street Fighter the movie. So, in essence, it's a video game that's about a movie that's about a video game. So, that's pretty wild stuff right there. Definitely fourth dimensional. And say what you want about this game, I think that it's underrated. I mean, it definitely gets a bad rap, basically because it's associated with this shit movie. But it is one of those rare circumstances where the video game about the movie is actually better than the movie itself. The only other example I can think of is Van Helsing. So, after Street Fighter II was released in arcades in 1991, fighting games were everywhere. They were all the rage, and one would step forth to redefine video games and make arcades even more popular than they ever were before. And that game was Mortal Kombat. Stay right there, me hearties. Captain Adams' VHS pirate ship. We'll be right back after these messages.
It's Cowboy Pork Chops, Choke and Puke Family Restaurant. You got a hankering for a hungering, or a hungering for a hankering? Well, come on down and rustle you up some grub. Never mind the lawsuits. Sit on down and try our world-famous fried fart basket. Only $5. Or get yourself an armpit and cheese submarine sandwich. Only $5. Or maybe you were out wrestling cattle all day and want a real man's meal. If you're so hungry that your stomach thinks your throat's been cut, we'll try our homemade boogaloo platter. Comes with 2 sides and what we think's a biscuit. Only $5. Or maybe you just want a little something. We'll stop that snack attack and try our new dollar menu and choose some cheap eats like our cat turd tacos or a Dixie cup full cud. And for a limited time only, get 10 hot dogs for $1. If you can't trust 10 hot dogs for $1, what can you trust? Yeehaw! So if you got a hankering for a hungering, come on down to Cowboy Pork Chops, Choke and Puke Family Restaurant. We're easy to find, right on the corner of Route 25 and Get a Whiff Boulevard, right beside Bill's Dirty Mattress Outlet. Yeehaw!
That's Cowboy Pork Chops, Choke and Puke Family Restaurant.
Yeehaw!
Cowboy Pork Chop not responsible for death or illness.
It's Fat Boy Surplus! Fat Boy Surplus! Husky Boys Irregular Clothing Outfitters! Fat Boy Surplus! Fat Boy Surplus! Specializing in closeouts, irregulars, factory buyouts, and unclaimed freight, which means bargains for you! Shop Fat Boy Surplus! Fat Boy Surplus! And get Mega Deal! Mega Deal! And get all the things that nobody else wanted! We're the region's largest distributor of Fat Boy sizes! Fat Boy sizes! Like Huskies, Cadets, and so fat! All irregular, all factory buyouts that your kid will absolutely not like wearing! They'll hate them, but you'll love them! So come on down and get Mega Deal! Mega Deal! On irregular, itchy, scratchy, overly starched, and horribly made jeans, only $4.99. Mega deal. And 3-sleeve skateboard dude or radical alien t-shirts in an assortment of colors, only $3.99.
Mega deal.
And for a limited time only, get a 5-pack of fat socks, 2 for $5 or 5 for $2. Your choice.
Mega deal.
So shop Fat Boy Surplus. Fat Boy Surplus. Husky Boys Irregular Clothing Outfitters. And shop our new locations in Hamilton and Sharon Petersburg. It's Fat Boy Surplus. Fat Boy Surplus. Husky Boys Irregular Clothing Outfitters. Attention, attention, stop what you're doing right now. A major class action lawsuit is underway against Cowboy Pork Chops, Choke and Puke Family Restaurants. And you may be entitled to compensation. Call the law firm of Dillon and Triceratops today at 1-800-TRICERATOPS. There's never a charge to evaluate your case. You, yes you, a massive class action lawsuit is underway against Cowboy Pork Chops, Choke and Puke Family Restaurants. And Dillon and Triceratops is here to help. If you've ever eaten at, visited, driven past, or even heard of Cowboy Pork Chops, Choke and Puke Family Restaurants, you may be entitled to compensation. Call the law offices at Dillon and Triceratops today. That's 1-800-TRICERATOPS. If you've got a phone, you've got a Triceratops. Call 1-800-TRICERATOPS for your free case evaluation. You, yes, I'm talking to you. A massive class action lawsuit is underway against Cowboy Pork Chops, Choke and Puke Family Restaurants. Call the law offices at Dillon and Triceratops today to find out if you are entitled to compensation. Pick up the phone and call 1-800-TRICERATOPS. That's 1-800-TRICERATOPS. There's never a charge to evaluate your case. If you've got a phone, you've got a Triceratops. Call Dillon and Triceratops today.
Part shark, part truck, and you're all out of luck. Shark truck. The highway is an ocean of terror. Shark truck, now playing in select theaters. Join the fun on Channel 1. Tonight on Channel 1, don't miss a new episode of everybody's favorite half-horse, half-robot, half-cop, RoboClop. RoboClop has a tie-breaking vote on the Senate floor. Will it be a yay or will it be a nay? And then on an all-new Night Goose, the vampiric goose who spends his nights fighting crime in the big city. Night Goose finally confronts his nemesis, Frankenswan, and Night Goose discovers that they might not be enemies after all. That's RoboClop at 8, Night Goose at 9. Only on Channel 1. Join the fun on Channel 1. Channel 1! We now return to Captain Adams' VHS pirate ship, Mortal Kombat. which launched into arcades August of 1992. Its main claim to fame was its use of blood and gore, and, as you can imagine, this stirred up a lot of controversy, but also made it extremely popular. And what it's most famous for is its feature known as fatalities, where by pressing the right combination of buttons, you can brutally murder your opponent. This made the game stand out amongst all the other fighting games, but also gave it a tremendous amount of heat, and also gave it fame. So much fame that it would break out of the arcade and into pop culture. There were trading cards for this, comic books, and toys. Yeah, there were action figures, just like Street Fighter 2, but unlike Street Fighter 2, they weren't paired up with G.I. Joe, but they were made by Hasbro.
They weren't paired up with G.I. Joe, but they were made by Hasbro, though.
Yeah, toys like this.
Hi, kids.
And look,
I'm Scorpion.
and I'm not entirely sure why everyone has to come with a fucking rocket launcher, but there it is. And they even had vehicles for this toy line, just like in the game. Oh man. I mean, don't you remember that great match with Raiden versus Scorpion? And then all of a sudden, Kano comes out with his fucking combat cycle and blows the whole place sky high! All right. I'll give them some credit. They were trying to sell a toy line, so of course it would have to be a little absurd. Hey look, Reptile has a speedboat. I mean, this stuff was fun and all, but really, having a toy line means that the product is geared towards kids. And the game was not geared towards kids, it was more geared towards young adults. But sure, kids were playing this game anyway, hence the controversy. And you would think that a product with this much heat would not get a toy line, but Hasbro didn't give a shit. I mean, they kind of played this stuff off as if it were on the Disney Channel. But I tell you what though, given the shit that's on the Disney Channel nowadays, I think I would much rather have my kids watching somebody rip someone's head off as opposed to that garbage. Garbage that is shallow, forcefully diverse, and more than likely produced by pedophiles. And so, it's only natural that Mortal Kombat would get its own movie, which was released August 18th, 1995. And this movie is a lot different than any of the other video game movies we've talked about so far, because it seemed that people actually wanted a Mortal Kombat movie, and they got it. And you know what? I actually don't have too many problems with this movie. Sure, it's got its flaws, but I mean, all in all, they did a really good job with this. The imagery is pretty okay. They did a great job with Kano, and he's actually one of the best parts of this movie, and since he's one of the best parts of this movie, yep, they kill him. Yeah, he dies in this movie. The effects, well, you know, they're so-so, but that doesn't really matter as long as you got a good story. And the story is okay. It does stay true to the source material. It doesn't take too many liberties. They sort of just stuck with the original game. Actually, this movie is also based on Mortal Kombat 2 because Katana's in it. Yeah, that's true. Katana is in this movie for some reason. And of course, Katana is a very famous character from Mortal Kombat 2. But oh well, so Katana's in it. Big fucking deal. And Shang Tsung is awesome in this movie. He's the main boss of the video game and the big baddie in this movie. Now, in the game, he is portrayed as an old man, and in the movie, he's portrayed as a younger man, but he's a sorcerer, so he can do what he wants. And also, too, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are phenomenal in this movie. They really got the imagery perfect with this. Well, kind of perfect. Also, the story's weird with them. You see, in the movie, they're like Shang Tsung's minions, but in the game, they have their own backstory. So that didn't really go well, but you know, whatever. This movie isn't perfect, sure. It was criticized for having subpar acting and poor effects and low production. Yeah, just like this show, you know what I'm saying? Now, what's really neat about this movie is Reptile is in it. Now, if you don't know who Reptile is a secret character from the game. And since they didn't really tell anyone that Reptile was going to be in this movie, I mean, he wasn't in any of the previews, it was kind of a secret that he was in this movie. So, he's kind of like a secret character in the movie, too. I don't know. I always kind of geeked out about that. I think it's a pretty nice touch. And this movie did tremendous at the box office. It was made on a budget of $18 million and made $122 million at the box office. Holy shit. People were so ready for a Mortal Kombat movie, and the studio actually got it sort of right. And compared to the other video game movies, this one is actually the best. And going back to the box office numbers, to be fair, the only other movie that opened that weekend was The Babysitter's Club. So, there's that. Anyways, one of the main criticisms against Mortal Kombat the movie was the rating. It was only rated PG-13, which is surprising for a movie that's based on a game that's known for its violence and gore. So people were very disappointed that this wasn't rated R and we really didn't see any fatalities or even any blood. And I'm not really the kind of guy that likes to see violence and gore so much, but if you're gonna make a movie about a game that's known for that, it's a little weird you didn't go with it. And here's something that's pretty weird. If you compare Street Fighter 2 with Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter 2 is violent, but it's not bloody or gory, while Mortal Kombat is very gory. But if you compare the two movies, hardly anyone dies in Mortal Kombat, but in Street Fighter the movie, people die left and right. It's pretty strange. And so, Mortal Kombat the movie would go on to be released on VHS and Laserdisc later on in 1995. And you can find the VHS today for relatively cheap. I found my copy for $1 in an antique store, of all places. But the Laserdisc goes for around $20. But Mortal Kombat on film would not stop with the live-action movie. We also had the Mortal Kombat The Journey Begins animated feature, which was direct-to-video and released August 28, 1995. And it's a short little video meant to show you the events that unfolded before the Mortal Kombat movie took place. And it's regarded as being rather shitty, with crappy animation, a flat story, and basically nothing really happening. Even though that this animated feature is pretty much a piece of shit, the VHS seems to go for a pretty high price nowadays. The average is around $20, and even a really shitty copy of this goes for $8. I mean, what the hell did you do to this thing? What happened to it? And then you got shit like this, where somebody thinks it's actually worth $100. Yeah, okay. And the Laserdisc of this goes for around $35, so as shitty as this thing was, it's actually pretty valuable. And then there was the cartoon show, Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm, which aired in 1996 from September 21st to December 14th, so this didn't last very long. And it was based on Mortal Kombat 3, and check out this voice cast. You got Luke Perry as Sub-Zero, Ron Perlman as Stryker, and John Vernon as Shao Kahn. He's the guy that played the bad guy in Ernest Goes to Camp, and he was also in Herbie Goes Bananas. Well, he was in a lot of movies too, like I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, Dirty Harry, The Outlaw Josie Wales, and much more. Very extensive film career, and now he's also the voice of Shao Kahn. So there's that. And there is VHS for this, and it seems to go for a pretty high price nowadays. $20? Wow. And there was a live-action television show for Mortal Kombat called Mortal Kombat Conquest, which aired from October 3rd, 1998 to May 22nd, 1999, and I really had no idea this even existed, and apparently no one else did either. And there was a box set VHS for this, although it was very limited in release, and it's actually really hard to find nowadays. So Mortal Kombat the movie was a tremendous success. And though it seems more like a high-budget movie that was made for the Sci-Fi Channel as opposed to a big blockbuster, this movie would still be revered as the greatest video game movie. So with those sorts of praises and box office numbers, a sequel was only natural. And we got a sequel with Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Yep, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which was released in theaters November 21st, 1997. And in stark contrast to the first Mortal Kombat movie, this movie was not well received at all. It sucked. Now, it's not really Double Dragon the movie bad, but I'm telling you what, this is pretty close to it. So close, in fact, that it's almost tied for #1 spot of the list of worst video game movies of all time. In fact, you might want to broaden that list to worst movies of all time. This movie is a pile of shit. I can't believe anybody approved a budget for this shit. It is so hard to believe. There are just so many things wrong with this movie, I don't even really know where to start. It's baffling. If this movie was released direct to video, I can understand a little better, but this was in the theaters. This was released on a broad scale, worldwide, and I went to see it. This movie has been described by pretty much everyone on planet Earth as abysmal and incoherent. I mean, it seems like a 7-year-old wrote this screenplay. What is happening with this movie? This movie is universally hated and ridiculed for even existing. In fact, there was even a third movie planned, but since this movie sucked so hard, they sort of just forgot about that and never talked about it again. Yep, this movie killed the cinematic hopes of the Mortal Kombat franchise. And it seems very fitting that this movie is called Mortal Kombat Annihilation because, well, it just annihilated Mortal Kombat. And this movie, initially, did okay at the box office. At least that's before everybody realized it sucked. It was made for a budget of $30 million and took in $50 million at the box office. Now you compare those numbers to the box office numbers from the first Mortal Kombat movie and it doesn't even come close. I mean, people gave it a chance, but once they realized it was nothing more than a flashy cash grab from the studio, they really wanted nothing to do with this movie. This movie sucks. There are lots of problems with this movie. The fight scenes are pointless due to the fact that the storyline sucks so badly. The effects are awful and almost seem like they were rushed. And if you thought the acting was bad in the first movie, this movie makes that movie seem like it belongs on Masterpiece Theater. Now, the surprising part about this movie is there is one thing they got right, and that's the imagery. It is almost 100% perfect, and it's just too bad the rest of the movie sucks in every single way possible. So it's a video game movie that actually got the image part right, but the rest of the movie so wrong. Well, anyway, this would be released on VHS and Laserdisc in 1998. And if you'd like this movie for your VHS collection, you can find one today for around $6 to $8. Or you can beat yourself in the head with a cinder block for free. In fact, I'll tell you what, you send me $6 and I'll take a dump in a box and send it to you. You know how some movies are so bad they're good? Well, this movie is so bad, it's worse. So far, we've seen some famous fighting game franchises put to film. And it's time for one more famous fighting game franchise with Tekken, the movie. Okay, so time to talk Tekken. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat are solid fighting game franchises, but there is another powerful franchise with Tekken, which launched into arcades December 9th, 1994. It carved out a name for itself by using a 3D format. It wasn't the first game to do that, but it is the most famous. Tekken was a massive hit and spawned many sequels. It stood proud against Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and it reached pop culture acclaim and enjoyed an animated movie, which was released January 21st, 1998. It was received with mixed reviews. Entertainment Weekly said that it was a punch-drunk Saturday morning cartoon that saps every atom of magic from its source. Wow, that's pretty deep. Okay, calm down there, Hemingway. It was released on VHS, and it's a white cassette. It's pretty easy to find, and the price is, on average, around 10 buckaroonies. But then there's always these kind of assholes. $30? Okay, pal. Now let's fast forward to 2009 with the release of the live-action Tekken movie. This had a limited release in theaters and was pretty low-key with its promotions. Not a lot of people even really know about this movie, and I'm pretty sure that's a good thing. I think it's odd that they would wait so long to make a live-action Tekken movie. I mean, the Tekken franchise has always been popular, but really though, its pinnacle was in the late 90s. So it's weird that there wouldn't be a movie till 2009. Does this movie suck? Yeah, kinda. It's more bad than good, but it's not terrible. They do stray from the source material, and it's pretty obnoxious, and definitely a prime example of early 2000s shit filmmaking. Now, one of the rules of this show is that if a movie doesn't have VHS, I don't talk about it. So I won't be talking about Tekken the movie, even though I just did. Anyways, as the 90s rolled on, technology evolved greatly, and thus so did video games, more specifically the home consoles, which enabled them to make games that played out more cinematically, making for a unique and engaging experience. The best example of this would have to be Resident Evil, which was first released March 22nd, 1996. This game was a mega hit. It spawned like 1,000 sequels, and it's a game franchise that is a mainstay still to this day. And so given the fact that this game was so popular and it plays out almost like a movie already, it would be easy to make a nice motion picture about it, right? Well, that just depends on who you ask, because we were treated to a live-action Resident Evil movie, which was released in theaters March 12th, 2002. And instead of them making a movie just based on the first game, no, that would be too easy and that would make too much sense. They incorporated elements of the second and third game, which made the storyline pretty confusing, but it's still kind of okay. And that's a pretty generous kinda okay, because this movie, I don't know, it's pretty cheesy and certainly does not stack up to the original game. And for my money, it's pretty much just an excuse to put a hot chick in a leading role. So, I don't know, this movie kind of sucks, I think. And a lot of other people feel the same way because the fans of the game were pretty much split down the middle on who liked it and who didn't. And I don't like it. But it doesn't really matter because this movie did very well at the box office. It was made with a budget of $32 million and took in $103 million at the box office, so did very well. People were ready for a Resident Evil movie, but the afterthought, maybe they shouldn't have made one after all. But it doesn't matter what we think because they still made 5 sequels for this movie. Yep, 5 sequels. There's 6 Resident Evil movies in total, and they all seem to get just a little stupider. Only the first 2 of these movies were released on VHS. The other movies were released after the fall of the VHS empire. And the VHS for the first 2 movies are very easy to find and very cheap. So another example of a cinematic game would have to be Tomb Raider, which was first launched October 25th, 1996, and is another tremendously popular game franchise that still cranks out sequels today. And of course, being such a big hit, a live-action movie was right around the corner, and we got one in 2001 with Tomb Raider, which was released in theaters June 15th, 2001. And as you might have guessed, this movie kind of sucks, with a senseless plot and meaningless action. But initially, it did well at the box office. It was made with a budget of $115 million and took in $274 million. So the old popular name on a marquee but shitty movie trick worked again. And there was even a sequel to this with Tomb Raider 2, The Cradle of Life, which was released in theaters July 21st, 2003. And though it's a wee bit better than the first movie, it still sucks. And both of these films were released on VHS and are pretty easy to find nowadays. And the first Tomb Raider movie even got the old special edition treatment. Oh boy. Did you ever see a special edition pile of dog shit? Well, here's your chance. Speaking of dog shit, they even made a movie for Doom. Another tremendously popular game series that they ruined. And if you care, because I know I sure don't, this movie was released in theaters October 21st, 2005, and it was a box office bomb. So, fuck them. Serves them right. And this would be released on VHS in 2006. And actually, it's a little hard to find. So, if you actually wanted this for your VHS collection, I could come over and just take a shit on your shelf. It's kind of like the same thing. Video game movies just keep coming, and it seems like the studios never really learn their lesson. And they keep releasing them well beyond the fall of VHS. There's a ton of other video game movies that I'm just not going to talk about. But I will talk a little bit about them, and as awful as Street Fighter the movie was, they still made another one with Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li, which was released in theaters February 27th, 2009. So would this be the great hope for Street Fighter on film? No, this movie sucks. In fact, it's boring. Now, me personally, I would rather make a shitty movie than a boring one. And to be fair, this is not a sequel to Street Fighter the movie, it's simply a reboot. And it still sucks. So it seems that video game movies are never going away. They keep making them. And it makes you wonder why they haven't made movies for other popular video game franchises. How about Zelda or Metroid or Contra. But you know, given the fact that they've made all these other video game movies suck, it makes me glad they haven't made movies for these yet. But there was a Zelda cartoon show, which was a feature on the Super Mario Bros. Super Show in 1989. And it was okay. I mean, they still kind of ruined it. They made it really, really cheesy, and Link is absolutely obnoxious. And this was released on VHS, and you could find one today for around $12. With the exception being for Mortal Kombat the movie, these studios just simply do not know how to adapt video games to film. They all suck, they're all terrible, and you wish they just didn't exist. Just like movies that are based on video games almost always suck, video games that are based on movies almost always suck as well. The exception being Batman Returns for the Super Nintendo and Terminator 2 the arcade game. So in closing, video game movies simply prove that video games should stay in the arcade. And just because you can do something does not mean you should. So I sure hope you enjoyed the Vendetta against video game movie saga. There was a lot to talk about, and I thank you very much for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe and share this video, and I'll see you next time, only on Captain Adam's VHS pirate ship. See you later, mateys. Yar!